Hi, my name is Maureen Driscoll, and welcome to my 7-part series on how to write a romance novel. I published my first romance novel in 2011. I've written 24 of them since then. I've worked as a writer in Hollywood for the past 2 decades, and I teach screenwriting in the MFA program at Stevens College. Today's episode is going to be about genre, and I have 3 tips and 2 bonus tips, including one which is very controversial. So let's get started. Tip number 1, write what you love. Now, I know it may be tempting to write the next big thing or whatever's popular right now or what you think is going to be popular. Like when Bridgerton came out, I'm sure there are a lot of people who switched over to Regency romance and like, oh, is it going to be big? I'm going to make so much money. First of all, I'm going to stop you there. If you are doing this to become rich, yeah, we have to have a talk about that. You can make some money. Some people make a lot of money with any type of writing, but again, it's usually a few people make a lot of money, and many people make very little at all. So this is not a get rich quick thing. This is your passion, and if you can make some money on the side, that's really good. The problem about chasing trends and thinking, oh, Bridgerton is huge. Let's do, Regency romance or Outlander. I want to do time travel Scottish. I just love the Scottish accent, so I'm never going to not do that accent. I want to do that because that's going to be popular and, I'll make so much money. No, I mean, if you love that, if you are like me, a Regency writer, then go knock yourself out. Do your Bridgerton thing, do your own series. That's awesome. But if that's not you, don't write it because the book that you will probably do best at is the one that you love, the one that you're going to keep writing. It's the genre that when you have had a really awful day at work and you come home and you're like, I just want to relax with a book. What is it that you're reading? What is that genre that you're reaching for? And even if you're like, oh, I like so many different genres, well, that's great. But really answer the question this time. What is the number one thing you're going to pick up and read? That is the thing that you should be writing because you're going to want to write it. And anything else is going to be a little bit forced. And writing can be difficult. And I'm not talking about paving roads in a July day difficult, but it can be difficult. So you don't want to make it any harder for yourself than you already have, or than it already is. So write what you love. Tip number 2 is to read. Now, since most romance writers are romance readers and most romance readers are voracious in their pursuit, you probably have this one already down. You're like, all right, let's fast forward to tip number 3. But reading is really important, and it is really important to read in your genre. I think I'd read about 200 books in the Regency romance genre in the 2 years before I wrote my first one. And it was really helpful because I got to know, the types of places that were mentioned a lot. I got to know a lot of the history. It led me to do my own research because it's historical and I didn't know this stuff. And even though my books are not historically accurate, I mean, they might say they're historical romance, but it's mostly just sort of like nice dresses and, back then, but not really a lot of history. Because of that, I really learned quite a bit. Now, all genres have their own unofficial rules. And if you're doing a lot of reading in your genre, you're more or less familiar with them. One of the things you need to be aware of also is the amount of sex in a book, because there are some genres where, and I'm thinking Mail Order Bride, for instance, it's a very, very popular genre. It is what they say, a clean read for the most part. I haven't read a lot of them because I don't really read clean books. And there's nothing wrong with them, but it's not my thing. But within the mail order bride world, if you violate that, you will hear about it. People will not like it. It will be an unpleasant surprise for many. An unpleasant surprise for many translates into really bad reviews for you, which is we're going to get to in a moment. Tip number 3, read reviews. I would go to Amazon and start with your absolute favorite author and traditionally published, someone who's, from a big publishing house, get your favorite book of theirs that you've read, look it up, and then I want you to read the 5-star reviews and I want you to read the 1-star reviews. Now, as you go through, you're probably going to see some trends. In the 5-star reviews, I assume you're going to see things about the characters. People like the characters, people like the plot. People like that this is perhaps an accuracy in the setting. They like that it's a series. These are all things that will come up again and again. And really take some time on this and go through. I would spend about an hour going through, from book to book of your favorite author, just over and over and over again. And then I want you to go to the 1-star reviews of the same authors and read what's there. And the reason why I want you to do this is for 2 reasons. One of them is because you will find out that even your favorite authors are going to get someone who's like, I hated this book. And sometimes they don't even go beyond that. It's just like, I hated this book. And I have often thought that reviews tell us more about the people doing the reviews than they do actually about the books themselves, which is fine, because a review is simply a person's opinion of that book. It's not like a snapshot of what that book is like. It is that person's opinion of that book. And sometimes, and even I've done this, sometimes I've had a really crappy day. I'm like, I need to take out my aggression on somebody. So I'm going to, whatever, I'm going to fire off a 1-star review. I actually don't do that very often, but everyone takes it out on someone at some point. But those 1-star reviews will really tell you things. I go through those reviews, and sometimes I'll read that an author, and it could be like a favorite author of mine, is reusing their plots too often. And there are a couple of my Regency authors who I just love, and I've enjoyed some of their books so much. And I've stopped reading them because it really is recycling the same plots over and over and over again. And people will call you out on that. You'll learn a lot. You'll learn things to avoid. Now, after you do that with your favorite author, I want you to go to an indie author, as we call self-published authors. If you don't have a favorite, you can do me, Maureen Driscoll. My very first book is Never a Mistress, No Longer a Maid. It is, has thousands of ratings. It is probably my most popular. When people talk to me about my books, that's the one that comes up the most. And it was the first in my first Regency series. And same thing, go to the 5 stars and then go to the 1-star. The 5 stars, what people usually say about this is they really love the characters. They love the family. They like feeling that they're part of this. They might like the mystery. It's funny. All my books have some humor in it, depending on what it is. So these are the types of things I get, because characters and making people care about the characters and plots, those are really important things when you're putting together your book. And you might not be the best writer in the world, but if you have a good story, that's the most important thing there is. I am the opposite. I am someone who can entertain you. I can tell you jokes. I can make you laugh. I can make you like, oh, that's really clever. And it is like pulling teeth for me to do story, to really get plots right. And it is something I know, and it's something I work on, and it's something I've gotten better at through the years I've been doing this. But again, story is going to be really crucial to your success. And then after that, do people like the people? And so do good characters. My 1-stars, it's funny because before I did this, I went to that book and I pulled up the 1-stars, and like one of the first reviews is like, oh, there's grammatical errors throughout the whole thing, which I don't think there are. All books have typos. One typo is too many. And I probably should go back. It's been a while since I've looked at that book. I should probably go back and check it out. But most of my 1-stars that I get are about sex. Because as I mentioned before, I like dirty books. I write dirty books. And there are people who really don't like sex in their books at all. And on my Amazon page, in the advisory of in the description of what the plot is, I have an advisory at the very top, not even at the bottom, because I'm not assuming anybody's going to read it. At the very top, I'm like, this is a sexually explicit book. If you do not like sexually explicit stories, do not buy this book. You will not like it. Despite that, I get all of these 1-star reviews saying, there was sex in this book. Now, that is fine because some people don't like the book. I'm kind of the opinion is if you've been warned, then don't read it. But they gave me a chance. They read it anyway. Some people just want to state their opinion and put their marker down and say, I don't like dirty books. Let's have more clean books, and that's legit too. It's all legit, but it is a little on the irritating side sometimes. This is again, if you choose to put any type of spice in your books, you will hear from people saying that you've got sex in your books, and there'll be some 1 stars. Other people talking about the sex in my books, some people are just like, I don't like it, but I skip over it. There's some people say I don't have enough sex in the books, which I'm like, whoa, you must really have an interesting, life. But these are the types of 1 stars that I get. Some people say I didn't like it, wasn't historically accurate, or some, like whatever they didn't like. But for the most part, I fortunately have a lot more good reviews than bad reviews. But as you are reading my 5 star and 1 stars and your favorite authors 5 stars and 1 stars, you will learn a lot about what readers are looking for, and particularly what readers are looking for today. So as you write, I'm not saying write for the reviewers, but keep those things in mind, of the things that people value the most, that readers value the most, which is good characters, good plot lines, stories that are real stories. Keep that in mind, because that if you can capture that, if you can create worlds that people want to live in, that they want to visit, you will have really done something. And you can, you should be A, happy in that, and B, you could make some money. Again, probably not rich, but you can make some money. It is time for bonus tip number 1, and that is choose your support wisely. So when you're writing a book, it can be a challenging experience, particularly toward, well, I was about to say in the beginning, but it can always be a challenging experience. And there are going to be people that you're going to want to tell, and you're going to be like, hey, I'm writing a book. And some of them won't care, period. And then some of them will be like, from that point on, like, oh, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done now? Are you done now? It's sort of like that car trip. Are we there yet? Are you done now? When are you going to get done? You said you've been writing this for like 5 years. That's not good. That's not going to really help you. People will join writers groups, and this is kind of controversial opinion, but I'm not a big fan of writers groups. They can be good, and I've had to. Okay, I'm a curmudgeon. I don't really like people, so that's part of it. But I've had to join a couple of them for work related things, and the reason I'm not wild about some of them is because it's, on the one hand, it's a lot of people coming together and want to write, but I found it's a lot of times people talking about writing and not actually writing. Now, we do not have enough connections in this world, and people will join these writing groups to make friends and to have a group of like-minded people to talk to and to bounce ideas off of. If that is you and you want to do that, yay, then you found it. That's fantastic. Then I would look for or start a writing group that you can find them online. Probably you could, and if you want to meet at a coffee shop, like whatever, do that if that is something that you want to do. If for some reason, though, you're looking for somebody to, like, make you disciplined and you're going to hit your goals, um, make sure that your writing group does that, and it isn't just people talking and no writing, just to keep you on course. What I do is I have one person who I actually met in one of these writing groups, and we talk on the phone because she does not live in this country, every 2 weeks, so we can't meet in person. But every 2 weeks, we touch base and we support each other. And I'll say what I've been doing. She'll say what she's been doing. We'll talk about what we want to do for over the next 2 weeks. And so we keep each other motivated that way. So for me, that works out really well. And also, she's someone that we can exchange like writing. Like sometime I'll be like, can you look at this? Because I don't know if this is right. And so it's very good. So I found my person. I have people, which is something we're going to get to in part 7. I have people who will read my things and help me with feedback on it. So that part works. But just be careful in general that the people that you are involving in your writing process are positive and they're not making you feel, like an imposter, or like, oh, you really think you can do that? What makes you think you can do that? You do not need toxic people in your life. You do not need toxic people in your writing. So just be careful and with the people you choose to support you. Okay, this is bonus tip number 2, the really controversial one. Um, there are people who will tell you that the moment you start writing, you need to start marketing, and you need to find bloggers who are going to review your book, and you need to go to Book Talk, and you need to go to Instagram, and you need to find these people who are going to be like, yes, and you're going to need to do like cover reveals, and you need to set up your page if it's a website, or if it's on Facebook, or if it's on Instagram, whatever social media it is. You need to do that from the very beginning and involve people and get your readers excited and go, oh, I wrote 600 words today, and here's my cover, and the whole thing, like the whole thing. And no, I don't believe in any of that. I mean, I believe in that once you have a couple books out, like if this is book number 3, for instance, then yes, that's a good thing to do. But if this is your first book, no, I don't believe in that, because for one thing, and this is the biggest thing, it is going to take you away from writing. And at this point, you need to be on the computer. You need to be writing. You need to. This is where, if you've got time is limited for everybody, and you need to write. And it can be easy enough to find distractions when you're writing, because everybody, no matter how much you know your story and everything's coming out perfectly, no matter how much, there's going to reach a point, I guarantee you, and you're going to be like, oh, I'm stuck. So instead of taking a walk around the block or taking an exercise class or whatever it is you do to get unstuck, you market. And so, like, let's say, and then you go into this big rabbit hole of marketing, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go back to writing as soon as I have like 10,000 bloggers. No, because you're just gonna do this and you're gonna stop writing, and because the problem will not have solved itself. And so pretty soon it'll be like 3 weeks, and it'll be like 2 months, and whatever, and the book is still stuck where it was. And in the meantime, you're telling all these people things about, oh yeah, this book, which you, at this point, you've got no idea when your book is going to get done. You might not even know what your finished product is going to look like. So I don't know what you're telling these people of, like, yes, I have this story about people who raise sheep on the moon. It's a romance. It's a love story. Don't steal that idea. So it might be sort of what you're going toward, but in the end, it might not even be your book. And in the meantime, you've told these people who aren't going to care because they don't know who you are. It's just, I don't understand it. And I have found that most of the people who say to do this are trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell you on a blog tour, or they're trying to sell you a book cover, which, okay, first of all, you should always get a professional to design your book covers. Just do it, please. Even with AI, just do it. Professionals, because professionals know what they're doing. They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to, or like, this is my book on how to make 1 million sales or whatever. Here's another thing on that. If it were easy, and if there was like some magic formula to get 1 million sales, everyone would do it. There is no easy marketing thing. There isn't. And this is another hard truth, is that you are going to spend more time marketing than you are writing. Because, let's say you write this book in like 2 months or 3 months or a year, okay? You are going to be marketing this thing for the rest of your life. I mean, at some point, it'll probably have other books, and so you're marketing all of them, but you're never going to stop marketing this, because there will always be more people to reach. So that can come later. If this is your first book, or even your second book, your job is to write the book. It is not to sell it until the book is done. Now, once you have a solid first draft and you're beginning to rewrite, that is going to be the time where you can reach out and get the cover made, and then maybe do a cover reveal. It's going to be contacting people who are bloggers and querying them and saying, hey, I wrote this book. It's going to be out, like in a month or whenever it's going to be out. Would you like to read it? That type of thing. That is a perfectly wonderful time to do that. But at the beginning, when you are just pressured enough to just finish writing this thing, Write the book. Don't worry about the marketing. Once you have a couple books under your belt, yes, and you've got readers who are interested because they read the first book, they read the second book, they want to hear how the third book is going. Yes, by all means, go do that. You can do some of my marketing because I hate it, but do not waste time on your first or second book doing the marketing. And again, people will say, I'm like, oh, what does she say? The reason why I say that is because I've written 25 plus books and this wouldn't have made sense for me. So this is my experience saying, don't do this. Just write the book. Just write the book. Thank you for joining me for part 1 of genre. And to recap, know your genre, write what you love, read your genre, and read the reviews of people who do well in your genre. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and a comment, and please share it with someone who might find it interesting. And please join me for part 2, which is about characters, which is how to craft characters that people will love and or hate if they're villains. And I will see you in the next video.